About 3 years ago, shortly thereafter, when they had completed the expansion of the Williamson Valley connector, particularly just south of Pioneer Parkway, I noticed a large amount of additional runoff going through my property. This runoff was full of sediment, and it would start piling upon on itself and getting higher and higher and higher. I became very, very concerned, and I did a couple videos, particularly one in September previous to the extreme flood that hit my property in October. And I made an ominous statement that this was just going to get worse. And it's gotten worse, and it's gotten worse, and it's gotten worse. And I probably was the first homeowner that was affected by this, or at least that realized it. Now there are a half a dozen to a dozen other homeowners that have received an equal amount of damage to their property, and this damage is ongoing. It does not stop. It's like having a bed bug problem that you can't get rid of, and it's hurting the property values. It's hurting people's ability to sleep. It's caused me to get federal flood insurance policy through FEMA, and my house, according to when I purchased it, is not in a floodplain, which is another interesting story. But never did anybody, it was a dry creek, never did anybody ever disclose that my home is in a floodplain, nor for the first 9 years did it ever flood until they, what I call illegally and maliciously, tried to save money on the Williamson Valley connector and put a lot of homeowners in harm's way, probably doing more damage than the money that was saved. But here's a letter that was written by a person that has a large knowledge of storm water control issues. His name is Joe Cotton. He's known me for 8 years. He's been responsible for maintenance, interior, exterior, various properties. He's a graduate engineer with knowledge of stormwater control issues, was a consultant for Motorola Corporation in Phoenix, developed and presented a training course for construction managers that focused on stormwater pollution prevention planning. And he does have a amount of credibility to the observations that he's made on my behalf. Now, my property was completed in 2003, landscaped in 2004. It included the treatment of a natural water course, not a floodplain, but a natural water course which runs diagonally through the property. And I'm going to stress, never did it flood in all those years previous to the construction in Williamson Valley. Now, in addition to the riprap protection on the sides and the bottom of the water course, I mean, we spent a lot of money. We put culverts, and they were installed at the entry and exit points to the properties. Now, these culverts were huge. They were the one was 5 feet, and now it's all covered up. And if you look at some of the videos, you can see some of the smaller culverts that the county installed that are 36 inches, and they're all filled up. So I also have a mound, it looks like a volcano, of dirt that has been caused by the stormwater runoff over the last 3 years. And I have to spend thousands of dollars moving that so my house does not flood. And it almost has flooded, and that's why I got the flood insurance through FEMA. The overall treatment was effective in managing stormwater runoff for the 7 years leading up to the storm event of October 17, 2010. And I want you to look at my prophetic video taken in October of 2010 when I noticed I actually went out and tried talking to them and telling them what was going on, the construction people at FAN, and nobody wanted to listen to me. Well, the magnitude of the storm water flow overwhelmed the drainage capability of the natural water course, resulting in substantial damage to my property. And it still does. It rains. This has been a very, very, very rainy summer monsoon, and my property pretty much in the backyard is destroyed. There's not much that can be done, and I think that my house is largely unsaleable at this point. So we're looking at a house that at one time was worth, probably close to 1 million, and now it's in today's market probably worth more like 550, 600,000. But with this problem, it's probably not worth much at all. So we've suffered $500,000 potentially worth of personal loss because of the county's inability to mitigate this thing. It's clear that the source of the water that caused the damage was a drainage system associated with a portion of Williamson Valley beginning just south of the intersection of Williamson Valley Pioneer Parkway and extending southward along the east side of Williamson Valley to just to the short of the private driveway at 3065 Williamson Valley Road. Now, not only this side of the road has a problem, but the other side of the road has a problem. And like I'd mentioned, there's 6 to a dozen homeowners that have suffered hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage due to this problem that has been caused. Now, the road bed features a cut beginning at the north part, and it goes on and on and on. The central issue is whether the abnormal water flow was a result of a quirk of nature or the disturbance of land associated with the widening of Williamson Valley Road, lacking an authoritative quantification of the rainfall amount contributed by this event. It's more useful to consider the impact of the road construction and its relationship to the damage to my property. Now, originally, when this event happened in October, there was roughly about a 1/4 inch of water. And of course, no damage was present or visible at that time. I might add too, there was several tons of hydroseed that was just placed on the side of the hills where the cuts were, and the cuts are they've probably doubled in size, causing double the runoff, and the road went from 2 lanes to 5 lanes. Really increasing the amount of water runoff. And all this water runoff is going through my property and my neighbor's property, and the runoff is going through many, many other people's property. And this is just really, really disturbing. So we'll go ahead and continue here, and I'll get right to the point. Prior to the widening project, Williamson Valley Road was a standard 2-lane county road with a minimum shoulder width. The finished road as it existed October 17th, 2010 is a 4-lane, it's actually 5-lane divided road with generous shoulders. Since the road is crowned in the center, only the northbound lanes contribute to the storm water runoff to the eastern side of the new road. Conservative estimate would place the volume of the runoff from the new road at 2.5 times that of the prior road. The process of widening the cut at the northern end of the area resulted in the removal of previous existing vegetation, thereby exposing a more impervious surface incapable of the previous level of absorption. There is evidence that the contractor applied hydroseed to the newly graded areas in an attempt to increase absorption, and that certainly didn't work. It's all in my yard. However, the application failed to adhere to the slope, and all of the applied material was washed away. The direct result was an additional substantial contribution to the increased storm water runoff, as well as a large volume of sediment, including the hydroseed. Now, this is where it's interesting. The Yavapai County's Drainage Criteria Manual 5.2 describes a requirement that mechanisms be included in the design of all projects over 1 acre in total, that can handle post-construction discharges from 2, 10, and 100-year events that do not exceed pre-construction values. Had this criteria been met in this portion of Williamson Valley Road project, Mr. Wyatt would likely been safe from damage. Include examples of effective mechanisms include retention detention basins with outflow restrictions. As effective stormwater pollution prevention plan includes mechanisms for preventing sediments and other pollutants from entering the natural waterways. The failure of the hydroseed application contributed to a substantial amount of sediment, adding to that produced by the erosion of the newly graded slopes. At the time of the event of October 17th, now remember there was another event in September where I predicted this event in October 17th would happen. There was an insufficient number of wattles. There was no wattles at that time. And the wattle that they have up there now, they've all washed out. They are basically bales of hay installed in the roadside drainage ditch to contain the amount of material in the runoff. The direct result of this condition was the overrun of the culverts in the natural waterway of the boundaries of Mr. Wyatt's property. The diminished discharge capacity caused a quick buildup of pressure at the boundary wall, causing its ultimate collapse and subsequent damage to the lined water course. In summary, it appears that the designer of the widening project failed to accurately estimate the increased runoff volume from the new construction and its associated sedimentation issues and provide accurate measures for controlling damage to adjacent properties. Instead, they allowed the runoff to exit at the right-of-way into private property without any warning to those private property owners as to the potential hazards of storm water discharge. Respectfully, Joe Cotton. It's also come to my attention that the Yavapai County received a variance or received permission not to follow their own manual. This was not met here. It was waived as a way of saving the county money. So, that probably came into factors when the plan was originally bid on many years ago to undercut another contractor by circumventing safe measures as far as construction procedures when it comes to diverting waterways, which is very, very serious. So anyway, I hope this makes sense to you and you got something out of this. Please give me a call if you have any questions. Greg, my phone number is 928-533-6407. Once again, 928-533-6407. Good luck and thanks.